Hey, welcome back to Savor and Success. As always, with Ricardo here.
Hello.
So today we have a very interesting topic and I hope you guys like it. In today's video, we are going to be smoking the Colombos Negro, which is a cigar that is made in Spain, like I've mentioned before. And this cigar has La Breña filler and a Nicaraguan Oscuro wrapper. Normally, we pair the cigars with a bit of wine because Ricardo with Sarda wines always brings a nice bottle of wine. But today, the weather is so good, we decided to go with some rum. Tell me, what is this topic we're going to be talking about today?
Well, I thought it was quite interesting. I don't know if you have seen it or not. Everyone is talking about it, especially in the UK. Have you seen the show on Netflix, Adolescence?
I've seen it, but I haven't watched it. Like, I know it's there, but I haven't watched it.
Right. So do you know what it's about?
Kind of. My wife told me about it. She doesn't want to watch it, so...
It's going to tie into what I think is an interesting topic. Adolescence is basically, it's a 4-episode series on Netflix. And it's basically about this 13-year-old kid,
Okay.
which murders a girl.
With this in London?
Yeah.
In the
Yeah,
UK,
yeah. Yeah. The main actor, he's actually a really good actor. I've forgotten his name. It's just like a Liverpool Scouse guy.
Oh, I don't know.
He's been in loads of stuff. Wicked actor. And Ashley Walters in it as well.
Is he the one that did the Peaky Blinders?
No,
Been doing a couple of things.
no. The Scouse guy is the father, basically. Just like lovely people, average, your normal working class kind of people, just busting their ass, working all the time. Their son, anyway, who seems like a very lovely kid, sweet, innocent kid, 13 years old, kills this girl.
Right.
Essentially, you figure that out all in the first episode, and it comes down essentially to the influence of social media.
Okay.
The world and society is so messed up at the minute. Boys don't know what being a man is. It's so much confusion, and then you mix that with a young boy's insecurity, and then sprinkle a little bit of bullying on there,
Yeah.
and toxic masculinity. And then you kind of birth this like monster. You're kind of like guessing, especially through the first episode, did he do it? Did he not? And then he starts to look guilty, and then the father's kind of looking at him, and he kind of knows. And then they show this video, CCTV footage of him actually doing it.
Oh, damn.
And even then, you can just see basically how it completely just destroys
The family.
the family. And they all tie it into the influence of like these toxic role models on social media. And they actually name drop Andrew Tate. Okay. In it.
Is this like based on a real story, or it's a fictional story tying it in with what's really happening at the moment?
No, I think it was produced by that Scouse guy.
Okay.
Or he had some form of writing in the story of it. Because the real stories in terms of like this shit is actually happening.
It is. That's what I'm saying. Like we have heard.
Yeah,
in
obviously
the news,
at the minute,
things like that
knife
are
crime, especially in the UK, is
it's highest.
yeah, it's crazy. So and I think he got inspired, but like inspired to write the story, based on I think a young boy had murdered a girl, like a young boy had murdered a young girl. And then another one happened, and then another one. So he kind of got inspired to kind of write the story or reenact it in kind of way. And I suppose he's trying to look at it from the perspective of where are these young boys getting their male role models from.
Okay.
It's a topic that I kind of wanted to talk about in general, which I thought come into it nicely was social media, the influence it has on kids, and kind of role models on social media, what it portrays to young boys, and should kids even have social media, and if so, from what age?
Obviously, we have our own kids, and we've spoken about this before. I want to avoid my kids having a phone at least to high school.
Or social media?
Just
a phone.
A phone at least to high school. Okay? Because I think if you give them a phone, then very quickly social media is going to jump in. Once they got a smartphone, it will be really hard to tell them not to have social media. But in general, I think there should be a law with all these apps. Anyone under 16 shouldn't be allowed them.
You should have to provide like your license or ID in order to get it.
Yeah.
But I think they haven't until now, because I think a lot of people don't want to put their ID documents in these systems or in these new apps coming out.
Well, there's something that I like. There's a couple of. I'm an Apple fan, yeah, and there's a couple of things that I like about their system. I don't know if Android does it or if any other, but I'm in the Apple ecosystem. So I like the way they do it. So you set up the phone as a parent. Yeah, so you set up the kid's phone as a kid, and
Yeah.
you're the parent. That way you have control over what they download,
Yeah.
or limits how long they can be in YouTube or Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
So if when it comes to the time to give my kid a phone, I'm probably going to give him an iPhone in this case, because I have iPhones. That way we can kind of control what apps, times, and things like that. But realistically,
Do you think that's too controlling?
well, somebody's got to do it. And I prefer to do it myself than having my kid upload the passport to Facebook. So somebody's
Yeah,
got to
fair enough.
control it.
Yeah.
But the problem we have is obviously not every parent has the time, the effort, or the possibility to keep track. Yeah, on how many hours, or you got to give them a timer again, and this and that. So it's not as easy as it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I, we're luckily, we're together, and we're able to look after the kids and be involved with it more.
Have they asked you? How old are your kids?
10 and 7.
Have they asked you for a phone yet?
So they got iPads. So that, I think, fulfills a big gap when they want to like watch YouTube and things like that. They and play games.
I think a kid mostly wants a phone, really, isn't it? To watch YouTube and to play games, yeah.
Well, not really, because most of the classmates have phones, and they
So
have
they can
group
text each
chats.
other, yeah.
They have group chats. They got obviously yours is much smaller, but they have the class chat.
Yeah.
Then they have friend chats, and then you have individual chats. And I asked my boy the other day, is like, do you feel like you're missing out? And he said, well, not really, because I see them every day, and if I want to say something, I'll just say to the face. And after school, I'm busy with my sports, my things, not really bothered. But I do believe when he gets a bit older, when he's in high school, maybe a girlfriend or a good friend or something, he will want to keep in touch.
Yeah.
That's when I think the phone will definitely have to come in. But it's a bit tricky. I do think as a parent, we are the ones that should be able to manage the social media, what they download.
Yeah,
and stuff.
but I suppose this is the point of it. Like this kid in this program seemed like such a lovely, calm, innocent kid. But he obviously had this like rage, this temper to him, which you see it in the series. It's like this switch all of a sudden, like this is like a trigger.
Yeah.
Like he kind of thinks, and it's down to confidence and stuff. Like he thinks he's ugly. But I suppose on social media, by all these influencers and role models, he's being taught that you have to be good looking, you have to have a load of money, you have to have all the cars, you have to live life in a certain way, or be a certain person, until you can get girls. So then if you're not, it means you're ugly and you're a simp. And there's a certain language that they use as well. There's like code within emojis.
Yeah.
It's like it has its own language. And I know emojis meant something. I mean, we're not old, but it's like all these generations have like
they're much deeper into it than us.
crazy. And they have their own like kind of language and stuff, and they would send you certain coloured emojis, which meant they got the hots for you, or they think you're ugly. And this kid kind of when he was asked, and there was one episode dedicated to a whole like with a psychologist, the way she was asking the questions and kind of getting him to answer certain things. It was a very intense episode, that one. And it all come down to him kind of thinking that, he's ugly and girls don't like him. So then he even reversed the question. He was like, well, do you like me? Do you think do you like me? And then obviously she answered in a typical kind of psychologist way. And then he was like, well, you don't. And it flipped. And then this anger, this rage comes out.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's also about he killed this girl who I think she kind of bullied him. Which is kind of like the story of what is happening with young boys and girls. And, it's almost like girls have all the power because these young boys are allowing them to, or give it to them because of how unconfident they are, or they think, the only way you can get a girl is if you're good looking, smart, and you've got this money, and you're a certain way.
Yeah, he influenced both sexes, isn't he?
If you look at those kids who are 13, 12, 10, having social media,
listen to random people on the internet. I think really, I don't know the story for real. I haven't watched the thing, but I think a very important part of a kid's life is having the parents together. Because if
Yeah.
your parents are together, like I would like my son and what he talks about, I'm the role model. I'm there. I'm his friend. Any questions I can help. Um, when you don't have a relationship, maybe the parents are together, but you don't have friendship with your parents, then you start looking outside.
Yeah.
And the problem is that outside, not everyone has the best interests. So I really think that when you have a kid and the marriage is together, mother and father are together, they're there all the time, it is much easier for the kids growing up, because then the role model will be your dad. And if you have a good friendship with your
Yeah, I
parents,
mean, but you say that, and I think you do as a boy, you go through a certain stage in life, don't you, where I think they start to almost listen to everyone except
Yeah.
your parents. Do you know what I mean? And this is the point of what I suppose what we're saying about social media is like you can't hide from these toxic influencers or people spouting absolute nonsense. And then these kids, young impressionable boys, are just going to eat it up.
yeah.
So I think the best thing you can probably do is keep them off it.
But again, if you are involved in your kid's life, you're able to.
I mean, you growing up, bro, how many things did you do your parents didn't know about?
I agree. Yeah.
They're always going to do it.
I agree.
They're always going to do
I
it.
agree, but I think also, if again, it all comes to the relationship you have with your kids. You need to spend time with them. You need to learn about them, and then it's easier to not influence them or manage them or whatever. But if you see that this is the influence that he's getting, if you're close to your kids, you're able to help them along the way. You know, because they're going to see this.
Yeah.
They're going to hear it, even if they don't have Instagram, they're
Yeah.
going to see it from their friends. 'Cause this is one question that we don't give him a phone, but all his friends got a phone. All they got to do is like, look, listen to this.
I know, but I suppose this is what that program is about. It's like the everyday Joe, the average Joe just working. They're so wrapped up in life. I mean, life is hard. Do you know what I mean? You're so wrapped up in your everyday
it's
world. Your
difficult.
everyday.
It is difficult.
Sometimes you can't pay attention, and I think even the last episode you can see where where something like that happened, completely just destroyed the family. Just destroyed them, the father, everything, and you kind of blame yourself, which,
Of course.
you know, I think as a man you would, you would blame yourself. And there's a daughter in it as well, which is like the older sister.
Oh.
And then, and she, I think he kind of turns around and goes, how did we make such an amazing little girl, like a young girl? And the mother turns around and says, the same way we made him. But it's like, you know, everyone's perception of and influence is different. I mean, the young girl's influence is going to be different to a young boy.
Yeah, and also
I think you need to establish whether your children are watching stuff that's going to help with their masculinity, like help be a healthy male role model, or whether it's like toxic masculinity. And there's a fine line difference, however. There is a fine line difference, because we go on to the Andrew Tates and that red pill community. There's a very fine line between, like, I actually agree with a lot of what Andrew Tate says, but you can see in his character the way he says it and what he means when he says it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if it actually comes from a good place with what you're saying. Like the things like biologically between a man and a woman with different this and that. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's the way that you talk to a woman.
Yeah.
Or about a woman. Because for me, loyalty is when you're behind closed doors. Do you know what I mean? Loyalty is going to be how I speak about you when you're not in the room.
Yeah.
So does someone like him speak about women when they're not in the room?
Yeah.
And he talks a certain way about them, and that's what I'm not on board with him. And then that's the borderline between masculinity, like actually being a gentleman, being a man, and toxic masculinity.
I agree with you, and I think going back to Andrew Tate, and it's not just him. There's a few of them. I think they maybe there's two ways that I think of this. Maybe they're coming from a good place, and obviously we had all of this feminism, toxic feminism. So he's trying to combat that, because the idea, I think, is not bad. Marriage, he talks about marriage should stay together. The man has a role, the woman has a role, I agree with those things, but then he goes into a crazy one. Sometimes I think maybe he's doing that just for the media. When you talk on camera, it's like us here. We have these conversations, and if you look at past videos, there were some words we were putting in, some ideas we were putting in. We didn't like. We took them out. You gotta when you're talking to an audience, and obviously there's not many of you guys here, but Andrew and many of these influencers got massive audiences. You got to be very careful the way you talk.
Yeah.
How you get your point across. I understand if he's talking maybe to one of these interviews that he does, that people are very, they attack him. Maybe that is the time to be like that. But when he's talking to the camera and talking to the audience and talking to the kids, he knows he's talking to kids. There's a different way of saying things or explaining things. But this is not just about him. It's about
No, it's
in
not.
general.
Well, it's just because they name drop him.
Yeah.
It's almost like they've tried to blame this whole thing that's happened and everything that's happening in the UK. They're almost trying to blame him. Like by the way they name drop him. You have to go back and watch it after this. Go and watch it because the way they name drop him, it's only like they make like 2 or 3 regards to it, but they name drop him once. But you can tell then the rest of it they're regarding.
But then it makes you think, like, are they doing this program because they really want to help the kids, or because they just have an agenda against? Because that's what he's going to say. The Matrix is coming after me. They made this program after me, and then you think as a kid, as a 13, 14-year-old, you're going to think it's true what he's saying. Look, they made the whole
they're not
program.
helping the situation. They're not helping the situation by name dropping.
They shouldn't have name dropped.
They should not have name dropping because they're not helping the situation now. Now they've just added fire to the fuel.
Fire to the fuel.
And he's going to use that as ammunition to say, see, look, they're coming after me.
Again, I think it falls back to the parents, man. You gotta know what your kids are into. Like, I remember I did a lot of stuff my dad didn't find out, but he knew most of the stuff I did, man.
But we grew up in a time where there was no social media at the time and internet. Like when we were growing up, when we were kids that age, that didn't exist.
No.
The influence to us was our fathers and our family members and maybe a couple of mates.
Well, that's the thing. I grew around people that went good. Remember, I'm Latino. I grew up around other Latinos with very, very, very different influences. It wasn't social media. It was real life stuff.
Yeah.
So, like the man that I am today, I always say, because of my dad, he was always there. It's a difficult job as a parent. Now that when I was a kid, I was like, my dad is so annoying. Now I see how hard it is, man. It is hard.
Yeah. I think they should make a law, make a rule that, you shouldn't even be allowed to have social media until you're at least 16.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't stop people talking. That would be freedom of speech.
100%.
There's feminists saying stuff, and there's the priest saying something. Like, we're allowed to say whatever angle you're coming from.
Yeah.
Whether it's God, evil, whatever, you should be allowed to say whatever you want to say. It's up to the parent to not expose your kids to all of this until their brain has developed a bit more, until their confidence have developed a bit more. Then you throw them out in the world, because it's not the same world, as you said, when I was 16 to when a kid is 16 now. You have so much access. Things have changed. I mean, since I was 16, OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you look at a woman differently. If you're fed by the algorithm, OnlyFans and all of these models and all of this, you don't think of a woman the same way I used to think of a woman.
If you subscribe to my OnlyFans.
Of course, sexy guy. Who wouldn't subscribe?
For my feet.
Oh, okay.
I'm joking. I do not have OnlyFans.
You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Savor and
Yes,
Success.
you can. That's absolutely free.
That one we have.
You don't even have to pay.
So yeah, man, it's a very difficult topic, and I got the boys, and it's difficult because you don't want to deprive them, you don't want them to be left out, but then you want to kind of regulate. And I think having a law where they say you have to be 16. I mean, bro, I used to. You telling me when you were 16 you wouldn't go to you didn't watch porn? You can still do it. You can still do it. You got a phone. There's going to be a way around it.
That is technically illegal. Like porn websites technically are illegal, aren't they?
Yeah, but still do it.
Yeah, you find a way, but it's like you're not influenced like by something. Like if you're on your phone every day, aren't you? You know, and then social media is addictive. You know, imagine a young and impressionable kid, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, how many times they're opening Instagram or social media in general. And then, the motion is that you're swiping, and the algorithm feeds these kind of young kids' brains with what they think is cool and what they're going to see you take someone like Tate. We're actually we're similar, we're the same age as Tate, really.
Roughly,
you think of it. So imagine like we were going to school with Tate. If you actually seen old videos when he was a kid, in school he'd be a gimp.
Yeah.
He just did kickboxing.
I think so too. I think he's one of those kids
and
that
then but he's
had a heart broken and then he became...
Yeah, basically. But he's become cool because like he's done kickboxing. I think if any kid does a fight in sport, they're going to become cool, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? And then he made a load of money, and then you know, all the cigars, whatever. But you don't have to be like him and smoke cigars. You can just have. This is what the point of cigars are for.
And that's the problem with he's blended the lifestyle and basically said, to have this lifestyle, you got to be this kind of man.
Yeah, and the only way that you're going to get women and you're going to do this and that is by having all the money in the cars and smoke cigars and be in shape. And do you know, there are a few good things that he says, like you should all be in shape. Yes, you should work on yourself. But I mean, a lot of people are very, very happy just married and with a one nice car. You don't need to have 69 supercars on your drive.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it always pops up on mine saying how you need to be buying 2 to 3 supercars a week, and I'm like, shut up, mate. Shut up. No, you don't.
Maybe in that sense, he's like thinking he's inspiring, but again, you got to be very careful. I have this channel with you.
Yeah.
I have a cigar channel. We go social media and stuff. And every time I post, I always think, who's reading this? Who's watching this?
Even if there's only 10 people watching, who could be watching?
Yeah, but the thing is, when you start a channel, or when you release a video, whatever, 10 people. We don't know. This could grow to 1 million subscribers. Yeah? And then this video, which now could probably get only 10 views, could grow up to have 100,000, 1 million views.
Which then you don't know who's watching.
Yeah, and then you're talking crap here. Yeah. And then it becomes...
You think is innocent.
Yeah. And then, no, you got to be careful. One, the way you present yourself online. And 2, whatever you say. But going back to the point and the series and what's really happening, because that's why I ask you, this is really happening in the UK. I'm guessing all around the world as well, because this is social media is
although
worldwide.
we say that, I mean, the UK has become almost, in terms of crime, I think London especially has become really literally one of the worst cities in the world for crime, especially knife crime.
Knife crime. Well,
you know, which is annoying for me, right? Because I'm trying to get into this brand and business of selling like professional kitchen knives, like Damascus steel, all these kind of like nice, for the purpose of kitchen knives. But now it's got this bad rap, and it's kind of like I got off to a bad start with it all now because of all this stuff happening in the UK. And I'm like, if I have to pause it, I'll pause it. That's fine. Let UK sort itself out at the minute.
Yeah.
But you know, all these young kids is so accessible, I suppose, getting like a knife and just stabbing people. It's knife crime.
Well, have you seen the knives, man? Have you seen the knives? This kid, they don't have knives.
Yeah, they're not exactly chef knives.
Yeah, your knives are chef knives. Like
I know.
These kids are carrying machetes and sword.
Crazy, like hunting knives. The UK is a bit of a
it's going through a bit of a bad patch in general.
Yeah.
But going back to the point, whether it's Andrew or whatever, I again, he can do whatever he wants.
Do you actually think he's a
wimp?
No, human trafficker.
The way he talks, yes. If he is not faking it for the camera, if that is really him, what's stop? Like, that's the way he is.
Yeah.
If he's really that person, the way he talks, then he does.
The persona he's become now, you would think he's like he was someone who would have got bullied. Let's say he didn't do kickboxing, he was someone who would have got bullied.
Yeah.
Right. And you can see like this is the. I
see him as the goofy kid.
Yeah, yeah, and this is the result of someone. You know, like when someone's been bullied their life and they turn out to become the bully.
Yeah,
it's like he's become the bully.
That's the way I think.
I suppose he's changed his image now online. He talks a lot more about politics and the economy and society.
The Prime Minister of UK.
Yeah, I know, bruv. But the reality is, the majority of his audience are these young boys. The young boys don't actually care about politics and economy. They care about how cool you are and how you treat other people.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to absorb. Also, why can't we bring back this whole thing around family life? This is something going back to something that he says, you know, that, since the dawn of time, emperors and kings have always had multiple, but there's only ever been one king. The rest of the world, the rest of society They didn't.
And there's no happiness. Look, I had at one point 3 girlfriends. Latino, in London, Man, I had 3 girlfriends.
It's effort.
It's hard.
But
It's
also-
difficult. Plus you're lying. Plus
Where-
it's not nice. It's not enjoyable at all.
What's wrong with family life? That for me, that is being a man, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
go back to something he says, that the men are supposed to protect and provide. Yes, protect and provide for your family. You've got 2 families in life. The one you're born into and the one you create.
Yeah. And you gotta take care of the one you
when
create.
you become a man is when when you start having a family that you then have the responsibility of protecting and providing for. And that means being honourable, respectable and worthy to protect and provide that family.
Yeah.
Why do you then need 7 or 8 different girlfriends on top of that?
This is something that they contradict themselves. One, they say, all of these problems are happening because the women are leaving the man and the kids are growing without a father. That's one of the things they say. I heard them many times.
I guess it has an influence.
But then if you have 7 wives and 7 kids with different wives, these kids don't have a father around.
And he always bangs on about how in the Western world, it's only us that are messed up, and the rest of the world are very traditional. Exactly, but I don't know about you in Venezuela, but for me in Italy, tradition is a man has a wife and kids and a family, and we protect our family, ride or die.
Yeah.
You don't go off and have 7 or 8 other wives and girlfriends. Maybe in other parts of the world, yes, but he's talking about Europe and the rest of the world. That isn't the rest of the world. Maybe that's one part of the world.
Even those parts of the world that have cultures that allow 7 wives, they don't do it. Only the rich, wealthy who can have 7 wives living with him do it.
Yeah.
And some of them regret it because it's hard living with one wife. Imagine living with 4 or 5 wives.
That's what they're saying. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know, even in the Quran or something like that. I'm sure it only actually says that you only have multiple wives if you can actually afford to give them all a gift.
Of course.
If you can't afford to it, you actually just stick with.
And this is what I'm saying. This because I have friends who have multiple wives.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you actually?
In Kuwait, rich
Oh,
guys,
yeah?
rich guys. They got multiple wives, but it's equal treatment to all of them and equal treatment to all the kids. And they tell me it's a hard job. But obviously they're into it now. They can't get out of it because that would be irresponsible.
The women are on board with it as well. Sure.
Yeah, they of course they don't. But that's the other thing. Having these wives and girlfriends that you're lying to them, that's not manly.
No.
That's not manly. Not that I agree having 7 wives in your house.
Snaky, shady.
Yeah, everybody's allowed to say whatever they want, but I do believe, like we said earlier, being a man is being responsible. I said having balls because the reason about having balls is like you stick to your word and you make decisions and you stick with those decisions and you fight for it and you think like a man. No, maybe 16-year-old, you don't think you're a man, but you think like a 16-year-old. You think of your age. Always think of the future. Everything we do has a consequence. Okay? I understand there's a lot of men are depressed and having hard time. This is a hard time for men. I understand that. Not just young boys, men are having issues, suicide, all of this stuff is happening. And I understand there's not enough love for men in a way, but I think you gotta find that in yourself. Not on social media, not through a friend. You gotta learn about yourself first, think what you want in life, and have a plan. Because that is something that I think is missing a lot. You're only thinking about tomorrow. What car am I gonna drive? What girl I'm gonna get? I gotta look this way. I gotta dress this way. You don't think 5 years, 10 years down the line. Because when you have a long-term goal, even just 5 years, then you have a goal, you have something to fight for, you have a direction. It's like if you jump in the car or you jump in a bus without looking at a number and just going wherever the bus takes you.
You should be.
Then you feel after a while you're like, shit, where am I going? I'm lost.
You should be focused on creating a legacy for me.
Yeah.
That's the way I think about it. You know what I mean? Something that's going to live on longer than you, and you can only do that by becoming amazing as a person, like you, the best version of yourself, creating a legacy and then being the best at what it is you want to do.
And let me tell you, nobody can make you see who you are. Only you can see who you are. There's no social media, there's no girlfriend that is going to make you happy. You make yourself happy. When you make yourself happy, you can make other people happy.
There is one thing I would say to young guys who are yet to start family, is be very, very, very careful in who you have kids with.
Yep.
Once you have that responsibility, you have a duty to provide for that kid, to protect and provide for your family. So be very, very careful, because as much as we talk about masculinity and toxic masculinity, there is a difference between femininity and toxic femininity, feminism. And this is partially what part of the problem of society, you know, what has happened is there's been this toxic feminism, just as bad as toxic masculinity, but both toxic.
And that's the problem
not
where we
real
live in.
masculinity and real feminism. A man is supposed to be this strong male which protects and provides, not this bully, which just basically bullies the woman. There is a fine line, so be very, very careful and look. And I would study the attributes before settling down and having a family or kids with a woman. Be very careful that they do have the attributes and qualities of what a good mother or a good feminine woman would have.
You have a great point, man. You gotta think a lot before you have a kid with a woman. And if you have a kid, you might be wrong, or it could be, you know, let's say an accident, because it could happen. Okay, fine. Be a man. Be responsible for your kid.
Accept the consequences. Accept the responsibility.
She could be the worst woman ever. That's your kid, no matter what. Stick by it. Don't fail your kid. Be present.
That is what being a man
Be
is.
present. Have a good heart. Always think, if you do well, well will come back. If you do bad, bad is going to come back.
Yep.
That's all.
That's it.
Anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. Let us know in the comment if you are going through a tough time, if you agree with what I say, or who's your role model. Let us know in the comments. We would like to hear from you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Next time.